All right, we are straight into the board this week. We've got Manchester United versus Tottenham Hotspur, 12:30 p.m. kickoff Saturday. That's tomorrow when this video will be released. Got my tactics board up, obviously. Going to talk more about Manchester United this week than Tottenham. I would say this on Tottenham to start with. They had a really good game against City. Dominic Solanke looks like he's back at the races. They've got some really, really class players. They're indifferent, to say the least. Their form is indifferent. They're going to line up probably very similar to the way Fulham played against us. In the shape, and they're going to match us up, and I think it's going to be really, really similar. I think they're going to have somewhat of a go. They're not just going to come and sit, but their main kind of game plan will be, can we beat them in transition? Can we make Manchester United overcommit? Can we make them have to break them down? And we got some pacey players. We can get at them and have Dominic Solanke as a danger. Our game plan, though, is going to be very similar. Again, Carrick has been, since he's come in, he's played the 4-2-3-1 formation. Mainly he's been the revelation, really, having Bruno further up the field. It's amazing how different Bruno is as a player, opposed to a central midfielder, an attacking midfield centre. I know for Portugal, Bruno at times often plays on the left of a three. In central midfield, I don't think he's as effective there either. I think just having him in them pockets, them holes, the angles of his runs, and anytime he gets on the ball, he just seems to have an awareness that is more than anyone else in the field. And his assists and numbers from a number 10 position says that. I'm looking at two main things I'm really interested to see what happens. Who does he play as the 9? I said, and I'll try and explain this a little bit more detail than I did on the analysis of the Fulham game. But I'd mentioned that Mbeumo, he's not your out-and-out number 9. I don't think he will be. He's going to be 11 or 7. And, you know, right now we've got one game a week. We're not in Europe. We're not in the FA Cup. We're not in the League Cup, obviously. And so, you know, it's one of those things where ideally right now Bruno would be getting some rest. Cunha would be playing the 10. And Mbeumo would be playing the wings. Ahmad would get a rest. But right now, getting Cunha and Mbeumo in the team with Sesko is very, very difficult. However, again, with Mbeumo's runs, and a lot of them are into the channel, and he's great in transition. So he's great to have in transition. So we're playing City, we're playing Arsenal. They're pressing us a little bit. We win the ball back. We've got that transitional play. We've got legs. We've got raw power, raw athleticism. But he was getting out here, and Bruno is not the kind of player that's going to win headers in the box. And I highlighted that. It happened more than once. But in the second half, I really did highlight that when Mbeumo had come out here and he was crossing the ball to Bruno against 6'2" defenders. That's just not going to work. Again, Fulham had more of a go at us. Tottenham, I think, will have a go. So does he start Mbeumo or does he start Sesko, who's going to give us that aerial threat inside the box? He's going to be prolific in the box, and he's going to give us a different type of option. Like I said, I would have done the same thing as Carrick in the last game. Mbeumo's been on form. Sesko needed minutes. I would have started Mbeumo. I'd have brought Sesko on, but to me it was backwards. The nature of the game, the way it was a backwards move, because realistically, when Fulham were more sat back, when they weren't having to chase the game, when they weren't stretched, you wanted someone like Sesko up front who could make runs inside the box, who could hold the ball up, is just more of your typical, prototypical number 9. And Mbeumo is someone you want to bring on when Man United were winning 2-0 as the 9 because Fulham was stretched. Now, we did it opposite, and again, I completely understand that, and Mbeumo's been in good form. Sesko's not been playing. Sesko needed minutes, so you weren't going to not bring him on maybe, even though that may have been better. And it worked out that having Sesko on the field at 2-2 was sound. Again, ideally, in an ideal world, I think Sesko starts that game against Fulham. I think Mbeumo comes on when we need to stretch him, or Mbeumo starts in a different position. So I'm really interested to see if he goes with Mbeumo again, or if he's starting Sesko, and how that looks. I think Ahmad's been prolific. I really do. Cunha, although he's more narrow, I think with Luke Shaw getting around him, you know, that is another big difference between now. Instead of having the 2 10s, you've got the 11 that can cut inside, and you've got these fullbacks that can get round up there like that. The same 7. It's a little bit different because Ahmad faces up the defender and tries to beat them. Dallow's not always getting in positions. He's more of a cutback option. But I think if Dallow's a cutback option and he can knock the ball in, and Shaw is the overlapping option and Cunha's coming more central, I think that gives our team natural balance. We've seen much better balance with Mainu and Casemiro playing than we ever saw with Bruno and Casemiro in a central midfield. So our team's just more balanced here. The back two, the centre-back pairing of Martinez and Maguire. They've been great. What's interesting to me was against Fulham, I was a little bit nervous because there will be grass behind these two. Martinez actually faces up players pretty well. He is more of a, hey, I'm going to step to you. And Maguire is more, I'm going to step off. Even though Maguire is so prolific in the air, Maguire thinks first thought is, okay, if it's not an aerial duel, if it's an aerial duel, Maguire will go and win the header. But if it's not, Maguire's first thought is, hey, can I step back and protect the goal, the house? And Martinez is, can I go? So it's almost like in a weird kind of way. It's almost like you're, I'm going to get pellets for this, but comparing them, I'm not comparing the two. The similarities in their nature is Ferdinand Vidic. Your Martinez is Vidic. He's going to go press the ball. He's going to go try win the ball. And your Rio Ferdinand is your Maguire, where he's just standing off and he's more... Yeah, they're both ball players, to be fair to Martinez and Maguire. They're both ball players. I'm interested because it didn't happen against Fulham where there was a lot of grass, a lot of exposure for them behind them. The reason for that was the line of confrontation was less. We were letting Fulham have more of the ball than we've been... We weren't pressing as high up. When you press high... I'm just going to go real quick here. We're all pressing high. And I saw this with Ten Hag, actually. It was the weirdest thing. You can't have that happen. You can't have that because one person doesn't do their job with a high press. Everything fails because there's going to be gaps in here. Oh, crikey. Oh, don't want that. I just want to put one player on the field here. There we go. All right. Obviously, there's going to be gaps in here where the opposition is going to get round in this space right round here. So if we're not pressing and not doing our job and we're not quick enough to get up the field, we're going to have issues in here. One ball is out. Ball either in here. There's obviously multiple players. Their team has multiple options, okay? Under Ten Hag, I actually saw this shockingly a lot. And I couldn't believe that someone wasn't fixing this. But I think that Ten Hag thought, well, hang on, my players are really struggling with grass behind them, so I'm going to sit them deep, but then I'm going to press high. It was really disjointed. So what typically happens in a high press is you need this. You need this shape here, okay? So you're pressing high, you need that. That needs to happen, and the goalie comes on, up, and is sweeper keeper, and everyone's pressing together. That is all-out, full-court press, if you will, okay? Now, the issue here is with Maguire and Martinez, you've got this grass in here. Okay, and they're not gifted with massive amounts of pace. We did not see that against Fulham because our line of confrontation, okay, the line of where we are going to go press as a unit, not just send pressure cover, not just send one person, not the pressure cover balance basics, but our line of confrontation wasn't up here on the 18-yard box. It was more on the, right around, if they had the ball in this area here, I'm using that 18 to show you. So if they had the ball here, that's when we would go and we would press up against them, which meant that Maguire and Martinez weren't as exposed. So, will we do that again? Or, Tottenham do like to play the ball out an awful lot. Will we go and do a full court press? Is that going to expose Maguire and is that going to expose Martinez? Now, Solanke's been on form. He looks good. He's not blessed with ridiculous amounts of pace. But, I mean, he's no slouch either. So I feel like it's going to be very similar to what Martinez and Maguire was dealing with against Fulham. Raul Jimenez, the Mexican striker, he's a really good player, by the way. His movement is really smart. What you saw towards the last 30 minutes of that game when Fulham were getting in the game, and again, when they were kind of pressing and we didn't have them stretched like we should have, you saw that Martinez was staying away from Jimenez. He didn't fancy him at all. And what Jimenez was doing was he was hanging on the back shoulder of Maguire. Okay? So, he's hanging on his back shoulder. There was one obvious play where it went, but he was doing this and his movement was really causing Maguire a lot of problems, especially the last 10 minutes. That's what they're going to try and do with Solanke. So maybe Manchester United will do kind of the line of confrontation being deeper and not high press. But I also think that we might see some joy out of high pressure. So then what does Carrick think? Does he think, well, I want to press them high. Maybe I play an aid in heaven and give Maguire or Martinez a break. So to me, I think he's going to keep the same team again, because why change what's not broken? But we need to keep the evolution here. And we also need to think about the style of play we're playing and how the other team can essentially utilize their strengths and our weaknesses. And one thing is grass in behind us is going to be an issue. This has been my preview. Please like, please subscribe, please comment. I'm going to do obviously the match analysis from the Tottenham game. And I hope you've enjoyed this video. I enjoy making them, and thank you very much.